Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Environment and Climate Change Decision meeting here today. I think we all know the fire rules, but just in case there's an alarm goes on, I don't think there's anything planned for today, but if you hear the alarm, I think we all know, take the stairs, not the lift, and we all congregate by the statue of Queen Victoria. Okay, so I'll tell you what, just while we all know each other, for the thousands of viewing public, shall we all just state who we are? Obviously, Councillor Dave Ashmore, I'm Cabinet Member for Environment and Climate Change.
I'm Rob New, Copnor Ward Councillor.
Richard Lee, Regulatory Services Manager, responsible for the review and assessment of air quality in Portsmouth.
Jane Dodino, Local Democracy Officer.
Thank you. And Fiona is with us from the news. So if we go first, any apologies for absence?
I haven't received any.
Okay, and declarations of members' interests? I have none. Over to Councillor Lee. Okay, this is about the sole item on here is the air quality compliance monitoring report presented by Richard over there. So if I may hand over to you. Oh, and Councillor Fielding is here. So we'll let you settle in and I'll hand over to Richard with the report there.
Thank you, members. The purpose of the report is to inform the members and wider council of the responsibilities of Portsmouth City Council to review and assess air quality performance. And we are aware, of course, that Portsmouth City Council is subject to a ministerial direction. The ministerial direction is to develop a local air quality plan to deliver compliance with the national objectives within the shortest possible time frame. The purpose of this report precisely is to inform the Cabinet member as to how Portsmouth City Council proposes to monitor nitrogen dioxide levels in key areas of Portsmouth to assess the performance of that local air quality plan once introduced. There are two recommendations. The first recommendation is to approve the installation of a new continuous air quality monitoring station. And the second recommendation is to approve the continued use of diffusion tubes, low-cost monitoring devices, and really to consider the use of a sort of intermediate device which will give us further information. Just to set the scene in section 3, of course this is a formal responsibility of Portsmouth City Council to obtain data to inform all with regard to the quality of air in Portsmouth. The local air quality plan, we will recall, is predicted through monitoring that a clean air zone will be required in Portsmouth to reduce levels of nitrogen dioxide in key areas to ensure that the objective standards from the government have been reached, and there is a proposal in place with regard to the location of that CAZ, which is in the southeast central location around the city centre. The CAZ will remain in force until we have sufficient data to convince the government that the ministerial direction has been complied with. Through the assessment of the requirements of that direction from the government, there are two locations in Portsmouth which have recorded the highest levels of pollution, and these are Alfred Road and at the bottom end of Mile End Road. So those are the focus, although there are of course other hotspot areas. The report mentions 5 areas where the model has predicted exceedances, but there are other areas of local concern which Portsmouth City Council have identified. We wish to add to our capabilities to monitor the effectiveness of the clean air zone should it be introduced, and we need to plan for this immediately. What we are intending to do is try and provide the best possible data using the best possible equipment to ensure that we have reliable data to inform us of the performance of any clean air zone that is introduced. All of this will be delivered in accordance with DEFRA's technical guidance, and there is a link to that technical guidance at the end of the report. It is important that we consider this now because it will take time to introduce this station, and ideally we will have that station in place prior to the Clean Air Z, should it be required to be, so we have some ambient levels of existing levels of pollution, and then we can monitor the performance of the Clean Air Z as those processes in regard to the steps, the plan of action, the entire plan of action to reduce nitrogen dioxide levels. The funding of this scheme is set out within Section 3, and it has been subject to a capital application, and an award has been granted for just under £50,000 to provide, purchase, install the new continuous monitoring station. There are cheaper alternatives to the device that is recommended within the report. However, the device that we are intending to install meets the Environment Agency Monitoring Certification Scheme, which is the driver to ensuring compliance with the EU directives, which is the best possible data that Portsmouth City Council can provide. It's a sophisticated instrument, and it provides the vehicle to ensure that compliance is being achieved, or indeed a reduction of nitrogen dioxide is being achieved through the introduction of a CAZ. There are, however, lower cost devices, and we will continue to deploy diffusion tubes, and we are considering the deployment of intermediate tubes, not in this particular location, but other hotspots around the city, so that again we can further inform our network, and we can further inform the Cabinet and the public with regard to nitrogen dioxide levels in particular, through the publication of the annual status report, which the 2019 report is due by the 31st of July 2020. Section 7 details the location of the proposed continuous monitoring station, and we've identified, of course, the two road links. However, we are aware that the Alfred Road link is less likely to be interrupted or disturbed by any committed development that Portsmouth City Council may choose to deploy around the city centre, such as a new road scheme and development of the city centre in general. And because we want a undisrupted level of data, that is why we are proposing the Alfred Road location. I have provided some plans and a pictorial representation of what the device may look like. It's only a guide, but it's an idea of scale, and that is on page 4, picture 1. And the precise location by the cathedral is highlighted by a red star on the location plan 2 on page 5. In section 8, I've gone into a little bit more detail with regard to the specification of the device, and I confirmed in there that we're not only going to be monitoring nitrogen dioxide, which is the focus of the ministerial direction, but the device will also monitor particulates, PM10 and PM2.5. A reiteration really that this is the best possible device to ensure that we have excellent results in terms of quality control, the validation of the data that is obtained, and that this device has a long lifespan. So with maintenance and updating in terms of consumables, filters, etc., we hope to ensure sufficient data over at least a 10-year period, if that is necessary. Section 9 confirms that we will continue to deploy our network of monitoring devices around the city. And just for confirmation, this will be the 5th continuous air quality monitoring station, but we have around 120 locations where we're monitoring through diffusion tubes, which equates to around about 200 tubes which are deployed each month. I bring your attention to the IIA in section 10, and I make no apology to link air quality to all of the, well, nearly all, there's one exception, to all the criteria within that document. And the message here that air quality is linked to everything that Portsmouth City Council does, and the monitoring of air quality levels is important to that agenda. Section 12 confirms the capital funding. However, there will be additional costs to maintain this equipment, as I say, consumables and maintenance as the years go by, and they will have to be found in future years. So I take you back to the recommendation in Section 2 to approve the additional continuous monitoring station in Alfred Road as identified by the red star in the location plan, and of course to continue to deploy our lower cost devices and to explore sort of intermediate devices at hotspots around the city. So those are my recommendations, members. I'm very happy to answer any questions that the Cabinet member has. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. Excellent report as usual. I just got to ask Councillor Fielding, do you have any interests of?
No declarations.
Thank you. Just before we go any further, I thought I'd just check that. Okay. Before I go any further, if any of you two got any questions or comments or something?
Yeah, I've just got a couple of questions. I mean, obviously it's important that we get the highest quality equipment for monitoring air standards in the city. I don't think we should be taken away with that. Air quality is paramount in the city. Bringing back to, you were sort of suggesting roughly when the station would be in place. Have we got a rough indication as to when that would be? Was it end of July, am I right in thinking?
There is a timetable regarding procurement of
Sure.
the device, of course. I am hoping, of course, that we have the device in place and operational prior to CAZ being implemented. We know that the CAZ is going to be a few years away, so there is no immediate rush, but the more data I get, the more useful that data will become. I certainly hope it will be in situ and operational by the end of this financial year.
Okay. And just a quick follow-up. What sort of do you anticipate any levels of disruption to the road network when you come to the installation of the device, or is it something that can be isolated?
The only interruption will be bringing the station to site, and there may have to be a lane closure for a limited period of time. I don't suspect this will be more than a few hours, perhaps half a day maximum. Obviously, we will refer to our our transport colleagues about when the best time might be for that, and if they recommend it's during the evening or out of peak times, then of course we'll facilitate that.
Sure. And just going back to something we touched on in the briefing, I'm keen to get obviously more diffusion tubes out of the city because they're a low-cost measure in ascertaining NO2 levels. Are you still open for submissions from ward councillors about any particular roads of concern that aren't currently being monitored that we feel that residents have particular concerns about?
Absolutely is a low-cost device. I brought a device with me in case members were unaware of what it looks like. It costs around about, with the manufacturing costs and the analytical costs, around about £15 per tube. Of course, it requires an officer to deploy that tube each month, etc. But yes, I'm very open to any requirements that anybody may have with regard to their concerns. What is worth saying that the annual status report does list the details of every location on a map, so you can identify the location of the tube should you wish. We have to join the dots in terms of our predictions, so it may be that joining the dots may be a narrative that might satisfy people. However, if there are immediate concerns, then of course we can consider the deployment of more tubes.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question with regards to funding, because I see, obviously you touched on the point about it, the first year and the actual cost and installation, etc., coming from the capital bid. So it says on here it's approximately 46,000. How do we know roughly what the estimated cost will be year on year going forward? Will it be similar? And where will that come from to pay for it?
To give an idea of ongoing costs, the first year it's like buying any piece of equipment. It will be covered by a manufacturer's warranty. So the first year there'll be no additional costs. However, thereafter we'll have to take out a maintenance contract. Although we can do servicing, as you may do on a vehicle that you own. You can service that vehicle to a certain degree and ensure that the oil's topped up, etc. We can do an amount of that, but it will require a specialist contractor to deal with gases and certain elements of the computer system within the devices. We have already 4 of these devices. It depends really upon the age of the device, what that device is analysing, and of course we can't predict whether problems occur with those devices. They may fail or whatever, but we predict them probably to be in the region of £5,000 per annum after the first year.
And I just had a follow-on comment, really, just to say, really through you, Chair, and your officers, to say it's really positive to see such proactive work taking place around this, because, as you rightly say, it's pretty complex and expensive gear. But I guess in this woke age, where the environment is obviously very important to everybody, I think one of the things that's been frustrating in the past, which hasn't been true, has been the accusation that the council doesn't do enough, where they absolutely have been working full out on so many things. And I remember when you were doing the air quality report previously, and all the work that went into that, it just seems to be really turbocharged. And so I suppose really I'm just saying on record that I think it's really positive and really welcome.
Thank you. I was about to say, I've seen the annual reports and the work that goes in it, and of course resources have always been stretched, but you've been a credit to the officers there, a credit to the council, I think. So thanks for that. Very pertinent questions from both. Thanks for answering them, Richard. I was just going to say a few comments of my own, because I'm glad you've pulled it out in the report when it says low cost. Some people might think, the council are trying to do it on the cheap, but as you've pointed out, low cost doesn't mean let's get as cheap as we can. It's these can be up to a few £1,000s on that, but you've explained, and that's all in there, and it's all about how we can get more of the measuring equipment to make things more accurate and make our information to help cleaner air. So that's good that that's in there. Remember we've also, and Councillor Fulham brought up about locations and roads and data. These are I believe they're on our website, aren't they? You can look them up, and it gives you a link to the what do I call it, the results, but the current air quality there, so that's easily accessible on there, so people can go on there, people can look at it for themselves. And also what I wanted to point out is some people were saying, or might have been under the impression that this document here might have been the full air quality strategy for cleaner air. That is not what it is at all. No. So just like to point that out to people now. When people hear things like HIT compliance, low cost and things, they think that's really unambitious stuff. But this is just purely to do to prepare for the clean air zone, which is, Richard said, is the ministerial directive. That's out of our hands, and that's all that is concerned is with getting our air at a minimum legal compliance. But obviously the council on our own, we're pushing to not just hit compliance, but we're looking to go way beyond that and get it as clean as possible as we can. So we've got other things that we're going on, trying to improve things like the cycle routes and things that cost money, but what at the same time we don't just want to say cycling improvements and it being just a fresh coat of paint over an existing one. That's not really improvement. Things like the EV charging, things like, I know Councillor Lynn Stagg's looking at get a bus depot here, because one of the things that the bus company has flagged to us about why they can't go electric is there's lack of infrastructure for it. So that's one of the things that's going on. And we have for people that are more interested in what we're doing or what we're proposing as a council going forward with cleaner air and carbon reduction, we've got a cabinet meeting about it on the 4th of February, so that should have a fuller thing for anyone interested in where we're going with that, and that has all the things I've discussed in there, other things that we're doing. I've even got a thing on there, if you've looked at Friends of the Earth, have got a checklist that they say local authorities can be doing this and other. That's also included with a little green tick where we are, amber ticks where we could be doing better and chasing up. So I just wanted to add that on, but as I say, this is really good, this is needed. Extra air quality measuring equipment, I think we're all up for that. As Councillor New said, it's a a priority. We're cracking on with it. So yeah, I think based on that, and I'm happy to accept both recommendations on that. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you, members.